Hello, John Bloodworth, Gentleman Crafter here with another Scan and Cut Saturday. This week I'm doing a bit of a longer video because I wanted to show you in depth the process that I've formulated to be able to create documents that you can print, that you can then create cutting outlines from, and then combine in your machine both CM and SDX users. Now, some of you may know something like this from Brother called the Print to Cut kit. Now that works automatically with SDX, however it doesn't work with CM machines and it does require an upgrade to Canvas Workspace. This method that I've developed doesn't. It's not automatic, but it is fairly spot on. You will need a copy of Microsoft Word and you will need the installed version of Canvas Workspace to make this happen. I've broken this down into various different sections and I've given each a time code that I will link to in the description below the video on YouTube, but you can always use that to jump ahead wherever you're watching this. The reason for that is because there are various different stages using the different software, and of course I wanted to show you both for CM and SDX machines how this process works. So I've included two alternates, one for each machine, and then of course some final thoughts and tips at the end as well. Just one last thing before I get right into the demo, please do keep in mind that I do tend to go a little bit faster on YouTube, so if it's too fast for you, please feel free to pause, rewind, rewatch as many times as you need. Okay, let's make a start. Now the first thing that I'm going to do, and the first thing that I would recommend, is that you create a folder to store all of the bits that we're going to create. There will be several things that we need to output from different software, so having them all in the same place would be very, very handy. To do this, in File Explorer, just go up to where it says New Folder here, click on the icon, and then name it something relevant. So I will name it Sticker Sheet. Okay, now that we've set that folder up, we can move on to the next step. Open up Microsoft Word and start a new document. We're going to go to Layout, set the margins, and we're going to go to Custom Margins, and we'll type 2.5 in each of these boxes at the top for the top, bottom, left and right. Then make sure it says Portrait and click OK. We're now going to insert a reference shape. So we go to Shapes, and then I'm going to choose one from the flowchart section down here, and it's this little circle with a cross through it. Select it and then click anywhere in the document. We're going to go to where it says Shape Fill and choose No Fill. Shape Outline, choose black as the color, and then in Shape Outline again, make sure the weight is set to 1 point. Over on the right where it says Height and Width, we're going to set this to be 1 centimeter. We're now going to set the position of this reference image, and to do this we're going to go into Layout Options. We're going to choose Behind Text, and then I will get you to click on See More. That's these positions here. If you don't have this little icon, you can always right click on the actual shape itself and go to More Layout Options. In position, we're going to set absolute position to 2.5 centimeters and to the right of page. Then in the vertical section, again, absolute position 2.5 centimeters from page or below page. In text wrapping, if you couldn't set that before here, make sure it's set here where it says behind text. And then for the size, we've already set it, but if you couldn't find this section up here, you can set the absolute size here as 1 centimeter each. That'll move it to where we need it to be. Now I'm going to use Control C and V to copy and paste it. And then I'm going to move it across the page. And you see in the middle there where that green line appeared, that's aligning this to the axes on the page, including the page margins, which is why we set those earlier. So you'll move it until it collides with the right-hand margin and the top margin there. Next up, I'll hold down the Shift key, move my cursor over the first shape and left click on it. And then basically I'm going to Control C and Control V to copy and paste both shapes. And then I'm going to move those down, and again you see them colliding with the left and right margins. And then when we hit the bottom one, we release the mouse button. That's now set 4 reference shapes for us to use later on. Next, we need to insert the images that we want to be on our sticker sheet. So go to Insert, Pictures from this device, and then we'll select the picture that we want to use. In my case, it's a big fat me head. Before we do anything else to this, we're going to again right click, go to Size and Position, go to the box titled Text Wrapping as we did before, and select Behind Text. Now the reason I'm doing this is because if I just cancel this, you can see if I click on it and try to drag it, it's not moving anywhere. So by doing this, changing it to Behind Text, it actually allows me free movement around the page for this image. Now I can resize it, and I can add more images in the same way, or I can just copy and paste this one a number of times. If you're using JPEG, obviously it will be a solid white background, so you'll need to position it away from your first image. If you are using a PNG image, portable network graphics, then it may have a transparent background, so you might be able to get the images closer to each other. So I'm just arranging a few of these on the sheet. And basically the goal is to put them within the border created by these 4 reference shapes. So I'm just going to do a few. See if I can move that one up a bit out of the way. And let's copy those and put them at the bottom. Okay, he's a bit too far down, so if I can move him up, get him out the way. Okay, I'm not going to spend too long faffing about with this. I just wanted to show how to set your sticker sheet up. Next, we are going to go to the File menu, choose Print, and then from the Printer menu, open it and choose Microsoft Print to PDF. Then, when you click Print, it will actually open a file browser rather than your printer menu, and I would suggest saving it to that folder that we created earlier. And I'll name this as Print Ready. Okay, that's the sticker sheet that we will actually go ahead and print out in a while. The next thing that I need to do, is to actually create an image that Canvas Workspace can or trace. Now, there is an option to save things as an image in Microsoft Word. However, it's not available generally for groups of pictures. So I need to make this one whole picture rather than lots of individual pictures. I hope that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I am going to press Control A on my keyboard, then Control C to copy everything. Then I'm going to start a new document. And from the Paste menu, I choose the drop down here and click on Paste Special. When this comes up, we'll have different options and you're going to select Picture. This will now paste what we just created as one single image. We can now right click on it and click on Save as Picture. Navigate to that folder that you created earlier on and save it with a name. I'm just going to leave it as Picture 2 here and click Save. Now before we move on, you can save the sheet that we created earlier as a, what am I saying? Oh yeah. So we'll create, we'll save this image here as a Word document as well. So you save that into that folder that you created earlier. I won't show you that because you know how to save. That gives us a way of manipulating this sheet and also a template to work with in the future. What we need to do now is go ahead and create the cutting lines in Canvas Workspace. I've opened up the installed version of Canvas Workspace, that's Canvas Workspace for PC, because I need access to the Layers tab that's available in this version. For that reason, I don't recommend using Canvas Workspace for web or Canvas Workspace for mobile because we don't have that option. So let's start creating the cutting lines by opening the image tracing options, and I'm going to import the image that I created earlier. Now you may remember that I saved it as picture number 2, however, saving it originally as a PNG file made the file size too big for Canvas Workspace to import. So I then re-exported as a JPEG file. And that's why I put up that big red bubble saying make sure to change this to JPEG. You can see there is a massive difference in the file size. PNG is at 10 megabytes and a JPEG is at 1. So it's much better for importing via image tracing. So we click open and the automatic image tracing has found the head shapes, that's fine. It hasn't picked up on the registration marks, that's also fine because I would go on to replace those anyway. So if they do get picked up, you may have to add a stage where you delete those once you've imported this tracing. I'm going to make sure this box is ticked where it says paste the image on the drawing area. And I've got trace outer edge only because I've got no landlocked areas, I just want the outside edge. I click OK and everything gets imported onto the cutting mat. I'm then going to go to the Layers tab, select the group, then go to the Edit tab, and I'm going to put the position in the same place that I put it on the document that was created. So that was 2.5 centimeters, which is 25 millimeters, and that was both across, which is the x-axis, and y, which is the up and down axis. So we can see our registration mark is now in exactly the same place we placed it on the Word document. Now the next thing that I want to do is lock that group in place so that it doesn't move accidentally, and then I need to bring on a circle. And this circle I'm going to make match the registration marks. So the first thing that I need to do is resize it. And if you remember back when we created that, we set it to 1 centimeter, which is 10 millimeters. And then I can roughly move it up here. In fact, I don't need to because I can do exactly the same thing that I did just now and position it at 25x and 25y. That's now positioned exactly on top of that registration mark. Oops. Now I want to duplicate that. So first I'm going to select it and then Control C and Control V to copy and paste. I'll lock the original one in place, and I'm roughly going to move this one over where I need it to be and then zoom in as far as I can go. In the properties panel, in the edit panel, I know that I need it to be 25 millimeters down, so that's the y-axis. And then for the x-axis, I'm going to just manually use the arrow keys on my keyboard to fine-tune that. It jumps at very small increments, but if you're finding even they're too big, you can manually type smaller increments in the box over here until you get it pretty much on top. Zoom to max size. Okay, now I need to unlock that first shape, select them both and copy and paste both. Then press Control G to group them. And I'm going to bring them down. Now again, I'm going to zoom in. I only need to zoom in on the one because I've got them grouped. So whatever I do to this one will affect the other one. In the Edit tab, I know I need it 25 across. So I can create that in the box there. And then, oh, I don't think I need to actually move that because that's pretty much exactly where I need it to be. So that's good. Zoom to max size, and we'll press Control Shift G to ungroup those. In the layers panel, we'll select all four and group them again, so Control G. And then in the operation type, we're going to select draw. The reason for this is because I don't want the shapes that are the registration marks to actually cut when I send this design to cut. I just want them to be ignored when I'm cutting the shapes. So that's how I achieve that. Next up, I'm going to unlock the bottom group, which contains the shapes. And if you want to create any kind of offset at this point, say for example you want to leave a white border around the shape, you would select them all, go to the Edit tab, select Offset, set the distance that you want the offset to be, so let's say 3 millimeters. Send it outwards, choose the corner type of rounding, and then you will need to set this original line operation to delete because we don't want two cutting lines. And then because I've got no landlocked areas, I am leaving this selected. So there you go, it's created that border for me. This is also one cunning way to get rid of sort of jagged lines. You see where I've got my beard, it would have been very jagged cut line. So adding this border just gives it that little bit more smoothness. Okay, so let's move those around a bit. So I'm going to select all of those and group them again. Yep, that's fine, everything's fine. Now, before I export this, I need to lock and hide the actual image layer. I just want to send over the cutting data. So once I've done that, I will go to the File menu, Export Transfer FCM File. The warning message that comes up tells me that items that are hidden will not be sent and that the lock and unlock data will be invalid when editing on the machine. Both are fine, so we click OK. Then we would choose to send this via the method that we usually use. I normally use the internet, so I'm going to choose Transfer FCM File via the internet. And that will send the data into the cloud, ready to be retrieved on my machine. Don't forget that I have done sections for CM models and SDX models, so make sure you skip ahead to the correct one for your machine. And I will see you there, and we will get cutting the sheets. Okay, if you own a CM model, you will load the pattern by selecting whichever method you chose to send the file to your machine. You'll then go into Edit, Selection, select all, and then group them. Click OK here, and then load your sheet onto your mat. Make sure the top left corner is exactly in the top left corner of the mat, and the left hand edge is against the left hand edge, and the same for the top edge. Doesn't matter about the other two. Basically, we've created the situation where we're going to line things up by the way that they were created. Next, load your mat. At this point, I chose to change my blade setting to 2, as this is what I would expect to use for a sticker paper. I'm going to encourage you to do a test though, because obviously all sticker papers are different and there could be differences in machines too. We're going to scan a preview of the cutting mat and the sticker sheet on the mat. When that comes in, we're going to go into editing, the alignment options, zoom in just to check to see if we are properly aligned. We're not, and I can see I just need to move things over to the left. So I'm just going to make a few taps and then zoom in again to see if I'm okay. Do this as many times as you need to get this lined up properly. Then you'll confirm all the way through by tapping OK, then select Cut, go into your settings and set the appropriate speed and pressure. I've chosen 1 and -2. I think I might need more minuses, but there we go. And then basically you will send your sticker sheet through to cut. For SDX model owners, you will load your sticker sheet onto the mat, aligning the top left corner with the top left corner of the cutting area, and the left hand edge and top edge should also line up with the cutting area edges. You'll then retrieve the data according to whichever method you sent it to the machine. Then tap Edit, Selection Boxes, and select all. Tap OK to confirm that selection, go into Object Edit, and then tap Group. Tap OK, and OK again. Next, you're going to load your mat into the machine. And then you'll scan a preview of what's on the mat. When that's finished processing, you'll be able to see if your design is lined up or not. And I will then show you how to make some adjustments if it's not. So you would go into Edit, make sure your object is selected, go into Alignment, zoom in and then zoom in again so you're at 400%. And then you can see quite clearly that we're not quite aligned. So we'll use the top group of arrow keys to just nudge those cutting lines around until they look like they're aligned correctly. You can use the other set of arrows to scroll around the screen to make sure that the other areas are aligned properly as well. And then when you're happy, tap OK, and again, and again, and again. Then select Cut, and you'll see how those alignment marks are now gone because we set those to draw. I would encourage you to do a test cut to find the appropriate settings, especially for your machine, as I found that the auto pressure with the sticker paper didn't quite cut the mustard, so I had to actually increase it a little bit. Go into the settings though and make sure that half cut is turned on, and then if you need to make any adjustments, change them here. Then send the sheet through to be cut. Okay, there we go. I hope that really does help somebody somewhere, sometime, somehow. It's been a while in development as I wanted to make sure that I got it right before I sent it out there. If something doesn't make sense, please feel free to re-watch the video as many times as you like. And of course, please feel free to list the questions wherever you're seeing the video. In the meantime, just a couple of extra tips. One is those alignment marks. Make them as big as you need to in order to be able to see them. Two is you could replace them with a full rectangle that sits around the entirety of your group of shapes. That is another way of making things work. But basically you're going to need to keep those marks within the printer margins of your printer. And you're going to be able to want to see them when you scan the document into Canvas Workspace. So those lines need to be at least 1 point thick, or if you're working in millimeters, that's 0.35. Go for 0.5 if you need to. I don't think there's anything else other than to say thank you for watching, especially if you've stuck through the whole video with me. And please remember to give the video a thumbs up. It really does help me attract new subscribers. And of course, subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive notifications of all new videos that I release. All right, that's it from me. Thanks very much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.